I take the pleasure of requesting the esteemed panelists to please join us on stage. May I welcome on stage Ms. Archana Verma, Additional Secretary and MD, National Water Mission. Ms. Noah Amsalam, Water Attaché, Embassy of Israel. Shri U.P. Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of Textiles and Jal Shakti, Government of India. And Shri Ashwin B. Pandya, Secretary General, ICID. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the esteemed speakers to all of you. Ms. Archana Verma is from the 1985 batch of the Indian Administrative Service from the Assam cadre. Currently, she is the Mission Director of the National Water Mission and Additional Secretary. She has a vast and varied administrative experience in public governance, including the management of rural, urban local bodies, women empowerment, education at the grassroots level, and human resource management and vigilance policy, health policy, and water policy at the highest level of policy making. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. We warmly welcome Ms. Noah Amsalam. She serves as the Water Attaché at the Embassy of Israel in New Delhi. She brings extensive expertise in water management, having worked closely with governments and industries, as well as academia, to promote innovative water solutions. Prior to her current role, she was holding various positions in Israel's water sector, deriving initiatives in water conservation, efficiency, and sustainability. A very warm welcome to you. We warmly welcome in our midst Mr. U.P. Singh, who is a 1985 batch IAS officer with a career spanning 37 years. He has an expertise on water sector, having spent more than 6 years in the water sector. He was first Director General of National Mission to Clean Ganga before taking over as Secretary, Ministry of Jal Shakti. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We warmly welcome in our midst Shri Ashwin B. Pandya, the Secretary General, International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage. With over 40 years of experience in water resources and irrigation, he has held top positions in various Government of India offices, including Chairman of the Central Water Commission. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. May I request Shri U.P. Singh to kindly steer the discussion, and please take control of this session.
How much time we have?
Half an hour.
Okay. I don't know. Whenever I go for these kind of... first of all, very good morning to all of you. We have half an hour and 4 of us are here, so precisely 7.5 minutes to each of you. In fact, I always say that you call speakers and you don't allow them to speak. Because water is a subject where you can't speak for 7.5 minutes. And I am supposed to speak on 3 occasions. So maybe on this occasion I will speak less, maybe my colleagues will speak more. But even in those sessions, all you get is about 15 minutes. In fact, I would have requested the organizers to give me 15, 15 plus 7.5, maybe 37.5 minutes. That would have been maybe doing some justice to the water sector actually. So let me add, they say charity begins at home. So let me say a few things at the beginning before I give the opportunity to other colleagues on the dais. As I told you, water is a very vast sector. So I would be speaking on something called water use efficiency in this afternoon session for the industry, and tomorrow I would be speaking again on primarily my experience from National Mission for Clean Ganga, but so I would be speaking on that. So I don't know in 7.5 minutes what should I speak. So I thought of on way. I don't come with a PowerPoint presentation. I don't have a written speech or something. So on the way I was thinking what should I kind of highlight in less than 7.5 minutes, which I have. So I'll tell you an experience. Very recently, I think about 20 days back, Center for Responsible Business, they have organized a similar kind of international, we call it a conference, seminar, I don't know the difference between them, but they have organized one. So I was asked to basically again chair a session where there were 2 speakers, 2 presentations, and there were 4 panelists. So I was very happy for 2 things. 2 things were highlighted there. In fact, the lady, she was representing a corporate sector, and she talked of, right in the beginning, she talked of something which has been my pet subject. She talked about the carbon footprint, water footprints. I was very happy because whenever I come to these kind of places, I ask people, what is the water footprints of a cup of coffee in the morning which you had? And when I say them it's 140 liters, people get surprised. So I ask them, what is the kind of a water footprints of the cotton shirt which I am wearing? Or water footprints of a leather cup, a pair of leather shoes I am wearing? Or maybe what is the kind of water footprints of growing a kg of basmati rice, and how much virtual export of water takes place when we export those a kg of rice. So she spoke about that, so I was very happy. She started her speech with that kind of a question about the water footprints. The other thing what I liked was that people were talking of a demand side management of water. All along, right from the beginning, when India became independent and Jawaharlal Nehru laid the foundation stone of Bhakra Nangal, and then he called it a temple of modern India. Right from that time, people have been talking primarily on a supply side management of water. But in that conference, I found demand side management of water being talked. I was happy. So when I started my little time I had, when I started also with a question. I asked the people present there, they tell me how much rainfall India gets in a year on an average. I know there is a wide spatial variation in the spatial distribution of water, temporal distribution of water, but how much on an average a rainfall India gets. And there was a pin drop silence on all the people who were sitting here. And then the lady who talked about the carbon footprint, she came forward and says, can I make a guess? I said, sure. She says 500 millimeter. Why I am giving this example, that if you do not, the basic how much, because everybody talks of water scarcity, water stress, all those kind of things. But I always say, how can a country which gets more than 1,000 millimeter of rainfall can be a water stress country? It has to be a water surplus country. So then when I came, so what I was trying to tell you, that my experience of about 6 years, 4.5 years in Government of India and 1.5 years in the state, 6 years in water sector, has shown me that we know very little about the water and we know very little about the rivers. When I was collected in a district, which was a drought-prone district in Odisha called Balangir, I never knew what in aquifer. I never bothered whether water table is going down or going up. I never bothered that what kind of crops are we growing. So even as after 7-8 years of service in IAS, I hardly knew anything about aquifers and the water table going down and all these. So this example I gave, so first thing I would always say that we need to work on a water literacy. Unfortunately, we are water illiterate. Most of us are water illiterate. I remember she told me in introduction that I was first Director General National Mission for Clean Ganga. When I joined there, people were talking of how many ghats are being constructed, or at best people were talking of constructing sewage treatment plant. That's not river rejuvenation. The life, a river is that which flows. If something which doesn't flow is not a river. So for 8 months in Yamuna, Yamuna in Delhi is not a river because it doesn't flow. So what I find is that people are, the basic water, what is requirement for a river rejuvenation? What is the connect of, let's say, a river flow with groundwater exploitation? Everybody will talk only of sewage treatment plant, and there also they will only talk about construction, not about its functioning. India is a country where we love construction. We don't bother about performance. So the first point I wanted to make here was that let's, in the sense that, of course, the ministry representative is also present there. I had spent a lot of time. I did my bit. Everybody is doing his or her bit actually. But we need to understand water. We need to understand river if we really try to find a solutions to it. The second point which I wanted to make is the one relating to policy advocacy. And what is that? Everybody talks about the bane of problem of groundwater or water in India is the way we grow our crops. We grow our crops where those crops are not to be grown. आप दिल्ली में जब बात करते हैं तो बात होती है कि मैं रोटी खा के आ रहा हूँ. When you go for a lunch, you go to Orissa, you go to West Bengal and you say कि मैं भात खा के आ रहा हूँ. Because that was the area where paddy was being grown, and this was not an area. Punjab, Haryana till 1980s, early 80s was not growing any paddy. Why do we grow paddy? I won't go details of it, but I'll say two factors. One is not only the declaration of minimum support price, but in India, minimum support price works only for 3 crops. The wheat, paddy, and to some extent you can say minimum remunerative price for sugarcane. And these 3 crops together consume 75% of India's water. Anyway, 90% goes to agriculture. Out of that, 75% is consumed by these 3 sectors. So we need to, I'm not saying, and apart from that, procurement and minimum support price is either a free electricity or highly subsidized electricity in the states like Haryana and Punjab. And with what consequences everybody knows. And the third point, the last point which I will like to make, I always talk of 5 hours. People talk of 3 hours right from the beginning, reading, writing, arithmetic. Then people talk of 3 hours of water where they talk of reduce, reuse, recycle. I talk of 5 hours of water. Apart from reduce or reuse or recycle, I say recharge. That's the 4th hour. आप धरती माँ को पानी पिलाओगे तो धरती माँ आपको पानी पिलाएगी. As simple as that. And the 5th hour, which is most important hour, is respect. We somewhere down the line have lost respect for water. Let's respect water. Thank you very much for, I hope I haven't exceeded my time. Thank you very much. And now, where should I kind of start? I can start with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Where do I start after such a talented speaker and motivated speech? Thank you. It was very interesting to listen. I'm the formal representative of Israel government to India for water issues. And usually where I come to these conferences, I speak about the Israel water story. And Israel is 60% desert, and still nowadays it's produce 120% of its water consumption. And I will tell you shortly how. We are very proud of innovations and technologies being invented in Israel, like drip irrigation, that are very relevant to India agriculture sector. But let me go through the Israel water story, and I hope discussion can be after that. So since its beginning, Israel has struggled to maintain efficient agriculture, produce its own food and supply water to increase in population. At the same time, that the amount of water available from natural sources do not change and even decrease. So it was a big challenge that need to answer many questions. For example, how can we be sure that the water is of high quality? clean and healthy? And how do we develop agriculture and food security under desert conditions? And how do we leave enough water for nature and for ecosystems? And the Israel approach to water management has been driven by necessity and creativity. However, this journey wasn't without challenges. In the 1980s, when water loss, over-extraction of groundwater, and overuse of natural resources was a growing concern, just like in India, Israel had to face the reality of over-extraction, water quality, and the growing strain on natural resources. Those challenges push Israel to rethink its water management strategies and find new solutions to protect its water sources. Therefore, the State of Israel realized that it's necessary to manage water resources correctly and create a smart water management plan that focus on four pillars. One is desalination. I'm sure you know that Israel is the world leader in the desalination of seawater, and almost 70% of Israel water domestic use comes from desalinated seawater, and it reduced the country's reliance on natural freshwater sources. Wastewater treatment and reuse. Over 90%, again, 90% of sewage in Israel is being treated and reused for agriculture. Around 80% of water used in agriculture sector is from reclaimed water. This with, of course, use of drip irrigation and smart agriculture methods. Now, the Israeli sector of agriculture is less than 20% of the population, but it gives the entire needs of agriculture needs to Israel and also export. Smart use of natural water resources, like investment in projects that help refill aquifers and allow sustainable water extraction, have helped to improve water quality and increase groundwater reserves. Thanks to those efforts, the Sea of Galilee has reached its highest water level in years. Since its beginning, the Sea of Galilee was the only natural water source in Israel, the upper water source, and now we don't use it anymore. So we managed to rejuvenate it to its previous days before we used it too much. And of course, reducing water loss. As Mr. Singh mentioned, also use and demand is also important, a crucial pillar in water management, and domestic users in Israel and in the cities, the non-revenue and water loss is average of 5–6%. If I compare it to the global average of 25 to 30, and I'm sure in India it's a little bit higher. And this success is due to advanced technologies like leak detection and smart water meters, and of course, smart water management. And thanks to this, we have developed circular water economy, where every drop is used efficiently and sustainability. Agriculture, which one relied on heavily on fresh water, now use treated wastewater for most of its need, like I said. This change has reduced freshwater use in farming to less than 50%, allowing Israel to manage water better without affecting food security. Israel's success is also the result of cooperation across different sectors. One is the private sector. Over 150 companies in Israel focus on water technologies, and those solutions are shared with other countries around the world. Academic research, leading universities and research centers in Israel are pushing innovation in water management, desalination and treated technologies, and government and public initiatives. Israel government has created policies and programs that support sustainable water practices and the adoption of new technologies. For conclusion, Israel Water Story shows that even in dry climate, it's possible to solve water challenges with smart planning and teamwork. Countries which face similar issues can adopt ideas, and we would like to share, like reusing wastewater, managing groundwater carefully, and using desalination in coastal areas to secure water future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whenever we talk of water management, we always give an example of Israel. Whenever I ask that India's rainfall is more than 1,000 millimeter rainfall, and the Israel's average rainfall is less than 500 millimeter rainfall. They have also the similar kind of a problem over, like as we have a monsoon rains, most of the rains are confined to few months. So is the case with Israel. As we have areas which have lots of rain and areas where are less than a 200 millimeter rainfall, so is the case with Israel. But Israel, nobody talks of water stress or water scarcity is primarily because of a water management. So that there lies the crux. So now I will request Ashwin B. Pandyaji, who is, as everybody perhaps would say, he's a grand old man of water. Pandyaji.
Thank you, Singh Sahab, and Ms. Verma and Noah from Israel. Really, this is a topic which actually has got roots in enormous amount of science, including the social and political arena. So the water, energy, environment nexus, actually there is also a big component of food that is associated over here, because as world over, we use about 70% of our freshwater resources for growing the food and sustaining the food chain across the societies. Energy also is another important component in which we generally spend largest amount of industrial water supply into the energy generation. And then the energy also has a linkage to the water, because the energy is also required in order to provide or serve the water to various users. And then the environment is an all-encompassing thing. So the transversality of the water, food, energy, environment nexus is very large. When we look at it from our country, India point of view, we, on one hand, we have a situation where you have what you can say plenty. And on the other side, you have extreme shortages. It is almost like saying that your feet are in fire and your head is in refrigerator and you are at a normal temperature. The water is an parameter or is a resource which has got multiple dimensions. It is not a static resource, it's a dynamic resource. The water doesn't really remain static, it flows, it transforms into various phases. And through that, the entire life cycle progresses. So it is very important to understand that what is the kind of randomness that we are endowed with, what is the kind of skew that we are endowed with in a geographical term, and also opportunities in terms of the topography and in terms of the availability of land in order to practice or in order to provide water and carry out our activities. So these are really very complex challenges. We have been generally thinking about the integrated water resources management, which is basically another name of understanding the nexus and also trying to provide or trying to manage the water in a manner that the various stakeholders do not feel shortchanged. But then this also has got another issue in a federally governed country like us, where we haven't done a very clear demarcation of our water rights or of our water entitlements. And that is through a lot of other social and political arena, that these issues also overpower the optimal management of water. We we have situations where we have plenty in one area and the neighboring areas may be starving, but then we will not be able to implement the solutions which will actually provide a kind of a balance over the two. We may have areas which will have more than their fair share, but then they will not be able to part with their share to the other areas who are in a greater need. So, in an integrated manner, we are unable to think about the water in a manner that it's a common pool resource, it's a public good, and that public good has to be used in a manner that is equitable to all the stakeholders. So this is an area which really affects the nexus part. Because in one of the arms of the water management, you will either do an overconsumption or you will do a kind of a wasteful consumption of water. So this is an area which needs to be really looked at very, very seriously. We progressed from an era where the population was less, the land available was plenty, and the demands were also relatively less. That is what I am talking about, like when we started out our water management in the country. But then over the period of time, the situation has undergone a substantial change. And because of this change, the changes that are required at the governance level are something that have not happened. And because of that, we are unable to generate a unified thinking process across the country about the water. This is a big challenge that India will have to face if it has to go to 2047 as a developed country. Because in that case, water is going to be a prime resource on which the developmental economics or the developed society will be built on. Another major issue that we need to really address while we try to tackle this nexus is the water use efficiency. When we are allocating water, when we are supplying water, we are not asking or we are not requiring a kind of a commitment on the part of the consumer about the efficiency at which this water will be used by that particular consumer. Or we are not defining that this water is provided to you with an expectation of this efficiency, and because of that you will have to really make do with this kind of supply. So these are the issues which are required to be addressed if we have to really address the nexus. The energy part is also very, very closely linked with the water as we have seen. But then, in case of energy, one good thing that is there is that the energy is being treated like a commodity. You have pricing associated with the consumption and generation and consumption of energy. But unfortunately, the similar kind of issues are not really, similar kind of linkages are not there with respect to water. And that is also providing us with a big challenge. And that is also affecting us in ensuring the efficiencies of water use, which will actually provide you with so much amount of extra resource out of the finite resource that you already have. These issues are all having their importance, and it is not possible to really take only one issue and then try to tackle it and then think that other issues will fall in the line. Like what we saw when we try to really kind of implement a particular kind of a measure, that measure ends up creating effects in the associated spheres at other levels. And then those will then in turn try to kind of restrict the kind of aim that you are trying to achieve in a particular area. So neither it is possible to think purely in technical terms, nor is it possible to think purely in administrative terms, and nor is it purely able to think in a kind of a purely welfareist terms. All these areas are required to be handled in an integrated way in order to generate the water energy environment nexus. This is a condition which it is not only here in India, but in most part of the world. This particular kind of a challenge is occurring in a different manner. In some of the other countries, there may be an extreme shortage of water and there may be issues on that front, and in some of the countries there will be an excess of water rather, and because of that they will have to face the challenge. And on top of all this, we will have to really have the, adapt to the climate change. So what I feel is that the water energy environment nexus requires a very holistic approach. It will be always a kind of a recommended kind of a practice that if we can go towards the integrated water management in a holistic sense, do not simply talk on the quantities, do not also talk only in the terms of outputs, and also think on the equity. That will be an area where we will have to work on, so that the water, energy, food and environment nexus is established and also is able to provide a kind of a progressive mechanism for the country. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For paucity of times, I'll make no comments, and I straight away go to Archana, who will have the last word. Anyway, government should always have the last word. Over to Archana.
Thank you, sir. It's indeed an honor to be sitting on the same dais with UP Singh, sir, who was my mentor in some sense, because when I was in Assam, he was the one who pushed us, of course, taking recourse to the NGT directions into cleaning our ponds and rivers, and his passion really is something to be seen, and it is great to see him carrying on with the passion about water even after his superannuation. So before I start with perhaps, as Sir said, it's very difficult in 7 minutes to talk about water. So I would like to begin with a story of my mother. She had come to Delhi, and at that time we had a water meter installed in our government houses. So she was very miffed that now you are paying for water also. Water has become a commodity which has to be paid. So she comes from Bihar, where we had these pumps and we used to, get water however much we wanted. So, water has been seen in the context of India and world over as a public good, something which should come free. So the economics of water still has not gone inside the psyche of public, and as Honorable Prime Minister has said that there are 5 things which are required if we are to, have a good water policy. First is political will. We have seen that water disputes can lead to, loss of lives also. So unless water gets the political will, merely bureaucratic implementation, will only go to a certain extent. Acknowledging that water is a scarce commodity, water is not an infinite commodity, as Sir has already said that if we don't use water efficiently, then we will be water scarce. Even projections say that 1126 BCM is the fixed quantity of water that we have, and given the food demand, which is supposed to rise from 300 MT to 450 MT, our water requirement is going to be 1180. So just managing the supply side of water is not enough. We have to also manage the demand side, and very rightly, as Sir has pointed out, with the 5 R's, respect, recharge, reduce, recycle, and reuse. So demand side is very important. At the same time, public participation is also one of the parameters which Honorable PM had flagged, that unless public thinks of water as a good as an economic good of value for which payment has to be done. It is very difficult, and unless there's a whole of society, whole of government approach in water, only government implementation will only, lead to a limited success. Then the third principle is persuasion for sustainability. Like one of the major things that we see, that whatever the projects be, water efficiency is not a very important component of all the projects that, that are delivered in the infrastructures. If water efficiency or water utilization becomes a mandatory component in the development projects, then I think a lot can be done in the infrastructure and a lot of water can be saved. And partnership, of course, sadly, except for, as Sir said, in STPs, where there is some hybrid annuity model in the National Mission for Clean Ganga, not much partnership has happened with the private sector in water, and it's basically seen as the government's baby and the government's cross, which government has to provide for the citizens. So in this context, I would like to talk about harnessing the potential of the community in water conservation. And for that, I'm going to just talk about the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, which started due to various reasons. One was the Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat. He usually talks a lot about his thinkings in his Man Ki Baat, where he said that water should become a community action, and Jan Shakti is something which should lead to Jal Shakti. And apart from that, as Sir has already said, that there's spatial and temporal variation in water. We have, if Goa has 3000 mm, Jaipur has only 300 mm. Then we also have a peculiar feature of our monsoon is that 50% of the rainfall happens within 15 days of 100 days of rainfall from June to September. So that's the peculiarity of our monsoon. And then we also have, we are the greatest extractors of groundwater. We extract more groundwater than China and US put together. And we have we have one of the lowest storage capacity. So our storage capacity is very less. So what happens is that even when the rainfall falls, as Sir said, that our average rainfall is not bad, and there should be no reason why we are, inching towards being a water scarce nation. We are already a water stressed nation, is because we are not able to harvest that rainfall in time, and we are not able to amplify our storage capacity. So it is in this context that the Jal Shakti Abhiyan was launched in 2019, and with the tagline, catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. It basically has 5 important objectives. The first is to create water resilient infrastructure and rain harvesting structures. As you all know, if you live in Delhi, if you have 100 square meter of floor area, you are supposed to have a rainwater harvesting structure in your house, but it is more in the breach that we follow. Then our second objective was geotagging, then building of Jal Shakti Kendra at the district headquarter level, which will be a place for training and capacity building of kisans, women and children, and also provide technical inputs, intensive afforestation and community participation. So this is the Jal Shakti Abhiyan Catch the Rain, which is being implemented as a flagship Abhiyan campaign of the National Water Mission. So thank you. Sorry, sir.
No, sorry. Sorry to rush you up because that's not my problem. That's the problem of the gentleman sitting there who has given only 7.5 minutes to everyone. So thank you very much. And it's we are ending this session on a very good note. Catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. If we follow that, I think there would be no problem of water in the country. So just remember one mantra, catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And with that, may I invite on stage Dr. Arvind Kumar, President, India Water Foundation, to kindly present mementos to the esteemed panelists for this session as a token of our appreciation and thanks. We start by thanking Ms. Archana Verma, Additional Secretary and MD, National Water Mission. Thank you, ma'am. Our thanks to Ms. Noah Amsalem, Water Attaché, Embassy of Israel. Thank you. We take the pleasure of thanking Shri Ashwin B. Pandya, and our heartfelt thanks to Shri U.P. Singh, the esteemed moderator of this session. Thank you, Dr. Arvind Kumar, for joining us on stage to present the mementos.